All right, I've got an article in front of me here, which is on boxingscene.com, and it is dated the 20th of December 2016. I did a video about this article at the time, so this is just a quick refresh and a recap before I talk about the subject of this video, and you'll see why I'm refreshing on this particular article right now. But the article is about the aftermath of the failed, cancelled fight between Bermane Stiverne and Alexander Povetkin for the WBC interim heavyweight title. Now, let me just quote the article directly, which ends with a quote from Mauricio Sulaiman, who is the president of the WBC. The article says, after the fight was cancelled, and it's talking about the Stiverne-Povetkin fight, Stiverne and his promoter Don King pleaded with the WBC to give them the interim title and a shot at Wilder by default. The article then goes on to quote Mauricio Sulaiman, and Mauricio Sulaiman says, "We cannot give him a championship without fighting anyone. It would be impossible to do something like that." So those are the words of Mauricio Sulaiman. Okay, so bear all that in mind. This was back in December last year. Now, fast forward to the past few days, February 2017, and you've got Bermane Stiverne. Again, this is another Boxing Scene article, which is claiming that Stiverne, well, it's just reiterating actually what they said in a previous article in December. It says Stiverne already tried to file a petition to go around the possibility of having to take part in a final eliminator. He feels that Povetkin's testing failure should automatically allow him to bypass the elimination process. And then they quote Bermane Stiverne here. He says, "Just to clear up the rumors and lies, a fight between Ortiz and I isn't happening. We got bigger fish to fry." Those are the words of Bermane Stiverne. He is calling the speculation that he may fight Luis Ortiz rumors and lies. You know, right now Bermane Stiverne is ranked #1 with the WBC. He's not the mandatory challenger. For those of you who don't know what the difference is between being #1 contender and mandatory challenger is, go look up the rule book of any governing body. But basically, being #1 means you're just #1, and you can become the mandatory challenger, which becoming mandatory challenger basically guarantees you a title shot. That's what it is. Being #1 contender doesn't. And how do you become mandatory instead of just #1 contender? You have to fight the #2 contender or the highest ranked available contender, and the winner of that fight becomes mandatory and gets a guaranteed title shot. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. Now, right now, Stiverne is #1 contender. #2 contender in the WBC is Luis Ortiz. So naturally, and very logically, people are thinking, okay, well, the WBC are going to have to call a final eliminator here then. They're going to have to, match Stiverne with Ortiz, and the winner gets to fight whoever the WBC champion is after Wilder fights Gerald Washington. Or maybe, after a unification, because Wilder or the winner of Wilder Washington may go on and fight unification possibly. But either way, to speculate that it would be Stiverne Ortiz is perfectly logical, because that is following the WBC protocol, following their rules. But Stiverne is shooting this stuff down, calling it rumors and lies. What are you talking about, Bermane Stiverne? How can it be rumors and lies to speculate that the WBC are going to follow their protocol? It don't make any sense. I hope that if Bermane Stiverne is not willing to fight Luis Ortiz, they drop him from the rankings just like they did with Alexander Povetkin. I hope that's what they do. I hope they order this Stiverne-Ortiz fight, and we'll see what Stiverne's going to do. Stiverne is a good fighter, a very hard puncher, a tough man. He's got a good chin. Inside the ring, I respect him, but I have stopped watching Bermane Stiverne interviews a long time ago, because he doesn't, to me, come across as the sharpest tool in the box. And combine that with the fact that he is less than eloquent, to say the least. It's excruciating for me personally to actually listen to Bermane Stiverne talk for more than a couple of seconds. And he doesn't actually say anything very insightful in his interviews. He just comes across as a not very bright man. And again, look, I know Bermane Stiverne would beat the crap out of me in a boxing ring. So I'm not trying to act like some tough guy here or call Bermane out, but to me, he just comes across as not the sharpest tool in the box with some of the things that he says. And right here is a good example, saying just to clear up the rumors and lies. What lies? People saying that there could be a fight between you and Ortiz because you're ranked number 1 and number 2. That's not lies. That's logic. You know? And in fact, we've got a quote here. I believe this is, Eddie Hearn, who is the promoter or at least co-promoter of Luis Ortiz. Eddie Hearn says it hasn't been called yet by the WBC, but there are people talking about 1 and 2 having a final eliminator for Wilder, which would make sense. Of course it would make sense. All right, let me continue the quote. Hearn says, Ortiz is high in the IBF. He's mandatory in the WBA. He's now number 2 in the WBC. There are so many ways he can go. I think if the Stiverne fight came up, he would take that fight in a final eliminator, but then that would close the door on other governing bodies. So it's something he has got to think about carefully. All right, so those are the words of Eddie Hearn, the co-promoter of Luis Ortiz. And again, he can see the sense in it. What's wrong with speculating that the WBC are going to match the number 1 and number 2 contenders? That's logical. That's what normally happens. But according to Bermane Stiverne, that's just rumors and lies. There's no substance to that at all, and people shouldn't even be speculating about that kind of thing. Madness. Again, I hope the WBC order this. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. They've already said previously that Stiverne can't get, or he can't have a title at least. He can't become interim champion without fighting somebody. Hopefully, they also say he can't become mandatory challenger without fighting somebody. That's what I hope they're going to say. I hope they don't get to bypass the elimination process and that he is forced to get in the ring with Luis Ortiz. If he did fight Luis Ortiz, who do you think would win? And actually, do you think this fight's going to happen? Will Stiverne, if the WBC order this, take it? Or will he try and go a different route? I don't see where else he can go, to be honest with you, because as far as I'm aware, he's not ranked that highly in the other governing bodies. Then again, Luis Ortiz might not take it. He's got a guaranteed shot with the WBA. So that's the winner of the Klitschko-Joshua fight. Ortiz has got a guaranteed shot against them. He just has to wait it out. So is he so confident that he could beat a Bermane Stiverne that he would say, you know what, I'm not even going to wait for the WBA. Let me go fight Stiverne. You know? Or maybe Stiverne rejects it and then they go down to Pulev. Pulev versus Ortiz. Or maybe Pulev rejects it. Actually, Pulev may reject it because Pulev has also got a guaranteed shot at the IBF title, which is the one that Anthony Joshua holds. So again, the winner of Joshua Klitschko, Pulev has got a guaranteed shot against. And I guess it may depend on who wins that fight as to whether Pulev will decide to go down that route, because if Klitschko wins, Pulev's already been in the ring with Klitschko and it didn't end well for him. So would he want to go right back in the ring with Klitschko again for his mandatory shot? Or would he, if the opportunity arose, choose to go the WBC route and try and pursue a fight with Deontay Wilder or Gerald Washington, whoever wins that fight? I don't know. It's going to be interesting, and hopefully this complicated situation will straighten itself out in the upcoming weeks and months. But I would certainly love to see Luis Ortiz versus Bermane Stiverne. I hope Bermane Stiverne don't try and dodge this fight. I hope it takes place. It'd be very interesting to me. And if not, we may see some other combination in terms of who gets in the ring to fight for the WBC mandatory position. It could be Luis Ortiz versus Dylan White, which is a very easy fight to make because both of them are promoted by Eddie Hearn. That fight would obviously take place in the UK. Well, probably take place in the UK. Eddie Hearn is talking about putting fights on elsewhere, but that fight will probably be a UK fight. So anyway, let me stop waffling here, people. Let me know what you think about the quotes in this video and all the points that I've raised. All right? It's that man, I'm out.